So I get a lot of questions about who's behind these protests, who's funding the protesters, is there funding, are some of the protesters being paid? And the answer to that is yes, they are being paid. There's a lot of levels of obfuscation though, and for an investigative reporter, it's a real workout because a lot of groups like George Soros' Open Society Foundations and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund are giving donations through something called a fiscal sponsor, which is a nonprofit organization that then disperses funds to other groups. And this is how some of the groups like Students for Justice in Palestine and other groups are getting money. The big funders like the Soros Foundations and the Rockefeller Brothers Foundations are sending money through various different levels of nonprofits, so that when you go back to try to find who is the original donor, you have to do a lot of work. I noticed as well that some of the protesters that have been active in student protests have been funded through fellowships to another group that, while it features the photos and the first names of the protesters on their website, they don't give last names. And it was interesting too for me that when I looked up the students themselves, many of them are no longer students at the respective universities where they're doing the protests, and they don't have their fellowships through which they got money to be protesters, essentially. They don't have that on their LinkedIn pages. So there's a level of obfuscation that's going on. There's a level of hiding, so that you don't know who the original donors are. One example is the Open Society Foundation has sent maybe $20 million to a group called the Tides Foundation, which is known as a fiscal sponsor that then will disperse funds to different groups, in this case, two different radical anti-Israel groups. So the point being is that the original donor can say, well, I gave to the Tides Foundation on a tax receipt, if they did want to hide it.